Hi, my name is Canan Marasligil, and I'm very happy now to show you a bit of the work, the behind the scenes of the work you're going to see in the translations exhibition organized by Mellom Press, which I'm very happy to be part of. So here I've put some of my books, the books, my sketchbooks, art books, the work I am making. And I'm going to a bit show you what kind of things I do, and especially dive into this one, which is the one I selected pages from to show in the exhibition. But these are just a few of the books I've been working on in the past few months and year. I was writing a book about translation for a publisher in France, and I was getting lost a bit in certain ideas around translation and how I feel about translation and my relationship to translation, because I love to work on translation outside the book most of the time, doing workshops and engaging with people through languages and trying to give tools to everyone to be creative using translation. And but there's also a lot of poetry in the way I look at translation and the works I create. And I was trying to find the right mix between telling that important story of how languages can empower people, but also the poetic side of it, the creative side of it, the creative writing and the freedom you can have in when you use languages and translation, and especially outside the book. So I have started to write a few thoughts, and what I always do in my books, I always use, you see here for instance, there are like flowers, pressed flowers. I press flowers all the time, all kinds of plants, flowers, whatever I can press, I press it. And then I use it in these different formats, in my collages, and I write a lot longhand. So as you can see, I love ink, and I love all sorts of different colored ink, and I love writing longhand. This is how ideas come. This is how my process usually works. I love quotes. This is a quote from Jacques Brel in French. But for instance, I always like writing quotes in big, because then they inspire me. I'm inspired by the work of other people, and I think it's very important to be inspired by other people and other artists, thinkers, and really I include them into my work. Like for instance, I wrote a whole chapter on music and writing and translation, the role of music in my translation, and I always quote Willem Flusser from his essay, The Gesture of Listening to Music, which I wrote here, like the quote. I'm going to read it to you because it's a fantastic quote. Someone listening to music is not actually concentrating on himself, but within his body, on the incoming sound waves. That means that in listening to music, the body becomes music, and the music becomes a body. The listener in listening is himself what he is hearing. Adapting oneself to music means becoming the music. And this is extraordinary. And this last quote, which I use also in the book, listening to music is the gesture that defeats the skin by transforming it from a boundary into a connection. And this is the link also which I make with translation. This is translation also transform a boundary into a connection. And you see, these ideas come to me because I collect these thoughts, I collect these objects, these flowers, these paintings, these photographs, and I also use a lot of my own photography. So I have started really building my own personal archive. This is a photograph I took in Brussels, and I am originally from Brussels. I'm originally from Turkey. I was born in Istanbul. My parents are Turkish, but I grew up in Brussels, and now I live in Amsterdam. So all these connections are also very important to me. And here I make the link with the Sebald, for instance. In Austerlitz, he writes about the Palais de Justice, and here is the ugly Palais de Justice, which I love. It's a monument that is really not beautiful, but beautiful in another way. So I think it's very interesting for me to look at these connections. and I care about beauty also. You know, this is just, you know, I do stuff and I just care because they are beautiful. I love this page, for instance. This is a photograph I had taken in London, and here's a passage from a memory from my childhood when a woman at a border in France, this was in the beginning of the 90s, where European borders weren't yet opened. They just opened in 92. She told my mom, as we were trying to cross from France from Switzerland to France to go back to Belgium, we were traveling back from my family, my uncle, and she said, "Vous n'êtes pas européenne, vous ne serez jamais européenne. You are not European, you will never be European." She said this, and I was like little, I remember this, so that memory stayed. So I wrote about it in the book, and then I made this collage, and this division, you know, that's again coming back to the idea of the boundary becoming a connection. This is what I'm trying to do. All these boundaries that I've seen when I was also little, but also what I see around me, lots of boundaries, lots of exclusion happening, and how do I transform that into a connection is what I'm interested in. And voilà, this is a bit this page I really like, because these are two pictures I had taken separately, and I had no idea of their connection, to be honest. And one was taken in Istanbul and one was taken in France. And when I printed the pictures and I saw them, I said, "Oh my God, this is translation." Because look, the symmetry, the color palette, this is translation to me. And so things like that happen. So thank you. I hope you enjoy the exhibition.